Welcome to another episode of Kookievision. In this video, I'm going to be making some V-Bucks from the game Fortnite. So I'm starting out with a circular shaped sugar cookie here, and I've got some gray flooding consistency royal icing here in a squeeze bottle. And I just squeezed a big portion of it onto the middle of the cookie. And I'm using a offset spatula to kind of spread it out towards the edges. And it doesn't have to be perfect, and you don't have to get it all the way to the edges because it is going to be covered. But you just want it enough that it's going to cover the middle of the cookie and maybe leave like about a centimeter gap on the outside of the cookie. And if you want, you can give it a little shake here, and that will settle out the icing pretty well. It will get it nice and smooth, but since we used a flooding consistency, it'll spread right out. And I'm just letting that crust over until I move on to the next step. Now to do the border, I've got a piping consistency gray royal icing here, the same gray as I used for the flooding, except in a piping consistency. And this is a number 2 tip. And I've piped a circle around the edge, and then on the inside, about a centimeter or so, I'm piping another circle. Now this part can be a little tricky if you don't have a whole lot of experience with decorating sugar cookies. So if you are a little nervous about getting everything even, you could always just kind of sketch it on with a food pen beforehand, just so you can get it nice and symmetrical. So I'm basically creating 3 sections within this border, these 3 rounded kind of sections that I'm actually going to fill with blue later on. But this step can be definitely a little tricky, especially even flooding it too can be a little tricky. So just make sure your best line of defense is to definitely have a nice stiff consistency flooding royal icing here. As you can see that I'm using here, because you do have to kind of get that icing into those tiny little gaps between those 3 sections that you made and the border. So if you have too thin of a consistency, it's just going to go over the edge on you, and it's just going to be a huge mess. So make sure you use a nice stiff consistency, flooding consistency. Usually I have my consistency is not too runny anyways, because it basically gives you a little bit more control, especially in little tiny sections like this. And this is the part where your scribe tool is really going to come in handy to get all of that icing into all those little nooks and crannies. So the next part is piping the V in the middle. So I've got a piping consistency white royal icing here fitted with a number 2 tip, and I'm piping the outline of the V. And of course, again, since it is a little finicky, and if you're concerned about getting it symmetrical, you could always just draw it on with a food pen as a guide to begin with. And I'm flooding it in with a flooding consistency white royal icing here, and this is in a squeeze bottle. I actually have a coupler on this one. This is I think a number 3 tip. I always use a number 3 tip if I have a squeeze bottle fitted with a coupler attachment. And next I've got a flooding consistency blue royal icing, and again I'm using a squeeze bottle fitted with a coupler just for a little bit of extra control, but a squeeze bottle, any sort of squeeze bottle will work. And I got this blue color. This is a bit of neon blue gel color or gel dye. This is actually by Chef Master. I just use a touch of that and then a touch of green, and it really makes it look like it's glowing, which is really cool. And make sure to get all those little air bubbles out of there too using your scribe tool. Now at this point, this cookie is completed. but you could also add a few rivets. I just wanted to add this as an extra detail, just a very tiny detail to kind of pull it all together. This is a piping consistency gray royal icing fitted with a number 2 tip, and I just piped some dots in between those blue sections. So there we go, we've got the finished V-Bucks cookie here from the game Fortnite, a very popular game right now with kids and adults alike actually. So thanks for watching guys, be sure to like me on Facebook and on Instagram. Bye!